Hey everybody, Ron and Elsie here with you tonight, hanging and banging another Thursday night outside of Chicago in St. Charles with the Arcada Theater, rock and roll heaven. I am so excited tonight to be here once again, our episode number 73 or number something of our season 2. It's so good to talk to all you guys. Everybody around the world, welcome to Hangin' and Bangin'. Tonight, we've got two very special guests. Aside from my brothers, Carmine and Vinny, we have JJ French from Twisted Sister and legend icon from Joey D and the Starlighters, the namesake Joey D. So when we first bring my brothers, Vinny, Appice, and Carmine Apiece to the screen. I don't know what that's
wow,
going on.
at the same time. Holy moly. The same time. That was like the same time.
What happened to my head?
We've been saying that for years.
Hey, Carmine, look.
What's that? That's the. No, I gave you that. No, cool.
Like it.
That was Vinny's Christmas.
I'm telling you, I love the brotherly love. This is like a show. This is like Philadelphia, the show of brotherly love.
No.
You want to see what? Let me show you what Vinny gave me.
I had to send him the money.
Oh, okay. No, that's a little different.
But this is what Vinny got me in place of that.
That's more than I got.
Well, fuck off.
Seriously now, we're Italian guys. What do you guys do for Christmas?
Wait a minute. Heidi. Okay.
That's
Hi, D. D's on. Hi, D. So what do you guys do as Italians? You had the tradition, the Christmas.
Well, when we all lived in the same state and they were in the same city, we all got together at my sister-in-law's house, and we had like 35 people there and played games.
We used to live in one room.
Yeah,
back in Brooklyn, 35 people in one room apartment, right?
Yeah.
Does everybody expect to when you guys are there? Does everybody expect you to have like some jam session or pull out the whatevers or no?
No, there's no drums at the sister-in-law's house.
I mean, you like turn over all the glasses on the table with the knife and fork?
No, but I just played at my 75th birthday party over the weekend.
So how was that?
The birthday bash, it was awesome. It was awesome. We had 70 people there. We had Pat Travis came by. We had the president of Cleopatra Records and all our relatives that we haven't seen in years. Vinny hasn't seen some of these relatives in 50 years,
Wow.
And it was awesome. Really great time. And then that was a Saturday night. And then Sunday we had a brunch at our house. And that was like maybe 30 people, 35 people.
Wow, that's great, man.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
Speaking on behalf of all the fans and all the music-loving, vanilla fudging-loving people out there, you don't look 75, man.
Oh, thank you. Well, what about
Vinny,
the hat? Now,
you
what
look
about
75.
It wasn't my birthday yet. My birthday is the 15th. But the reason why we did it on the 4th, because we had a lot of relatives coming from out of town and up north, and we figured if we did it closer to Christmas, the plane flights would be so expensive. Yeah. So we put it at the beginning of December, and the flights were reasonable still.
So did you always get cheated growing up, having a birthday in December?
No, I always got great presents. I got 2 presents as one, like my drums. I got a 5-door chemistry set one time. You remember that?
Wow.
Yeah.
It was
making crack in the basement with that?
Yeah, we're making crack and gunpowder and blowing things. One time I built a rocket. I put it in the backyard that blew a hole in the backyard. It didn't take off.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences. Hey, guys, we got a couple guys backstage. Another one of these shows. It's just amazing. Yeah, and one of the things I love about our show, I got to say, is not only the variety, but it's the variety within the same show. You're talking about
this one is generations.
Yeah, this one's definitely
New Yorkers with like 2 generations.
Absolutely,
rock generations. That was awesome.
Let's bring on JJ French. He's from Twisted Sister. He's iconic in his own right.
Hey,
what's up, JJ?
Hey, dude. Hey, JJ, me and you got to get new press photos. I got to get a new one too.
Yeah, well, my book was originally called Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow, but I changed the name. Change the name of it, but
that's great.
And I'm going to talk about your book. Really interesting, by the way. Let's welcome to the show, JJ. Let's bring our other guest, because I love everybody's on. And this guy, I mean, you talk about icons like Carmine Appice that's been around in the 75th birthday. This guy's been around. Talk about the beginning of rock and roll.
Longer.
This guy's around. Yeah, I know. It was his first band was Cro-Magnon Rock and Rollers or something. But he was been around. And I tell you what, this guy I've had the opportunity to work with many, many times. Very, very excited to bring him on. Let's do that. Joey D, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Joey. We all love the suit.
Yeah, the suit rocks.
And the tie. You rock.
But the interesting thing is he's always dressed like this.
Really?
He literally just got out of the shower.
I got this in my hometown, Passaic.
Uh-oh.
I got this in Passaic, New Jersey at the Morocco funeral.
Oh man.
Oh,
we're losing Joey.
Don't say that.
Yeah, don't say that.
Oh.
So how do we make it better with Joey? Joey, is anybody home?
That could be a no.
I'm sorry?
This could. Is anybody home that can help us kind of redo the?
You can see me.
The internet is not working properly, Joey.
Can't hear.
Well, I got to tell you, anyway, we'll keep on rolling. And Joey D represents a time, and just it's he's emulating it by his appearance tonight. A time of class. You know what I mean? I mean, these guys dress to the nines all the time. I mean, look at the tie, and he's got a pocket square.
Yeah.
He's on an internet talk show, and he puts a pocket square in. What can you say about a guy like that? Joey, it's so nice to see you, buddy.
What'd you call that? A pocket what?
It's called a pocket square.
What's that?
That's that thing. That thing in
this thing over here.
Right over there.
I thought it was a handkerchief.
Hey, I wore one of those at my party. I had a black jacket with little polka dots, and I had a black, I call it a handkerchief in there.
Yeah, I thought.
You could call it that. Yeah, so, Jay, it's good to see you. What have you been up to during all the craziness?
Well, I have a podcast like you guys, because everybody has a podcast, and they should just call it every human being has a podcast. So my podcast is called the JJ French Connection. And I have a book out, and I do motivational speaking. In fact, Carmine and I had lunch several years ago when I started doing my speaking engagement, because you asked me, how did I get into the speaking business? You wanted to talk to me about it, and I said I kind of fell into it with I had a mentor who helped me, and this mentor, Steve Farber, who co-wrote my book with me, I
know Steve.
Yeah, is a writer, and he's a best-selling author, and his companies hire me to do motivational speaking. So I started doing a lot of it with corporations, and I didn't expect. Originally, I thought it was going to be to musicians. It wound up having nothing to do with musicians. It's all business. I get hired by Fortune 500 companies. I get hired by finance companies, travel agencies, insurance companies, because the what I teach in the book, what the book is, it's a business book, and it's a lifestyle book, and it's a business book, and it's a memoir in which I tell a lot of stories about the bar scene that we grew up in, because there's a lot to write about back, especially in the Long Island scene, the whole the bar scene. I mean, people talk about the Beatles woodshedding, and all due respect, they're the greatest band in the world. But Carmine, you and I know what it was really like to do 5 shows a night, 6 nights a week. I mean, that's what we cut our teeth on, and we did it for 10 years. So, and every show I play is in the book, by the way. I always talk about our 9,000 performances. I list them in the book so people can actually see 9,000. How many shows we did.
Oh, God,
that's crazy.
So I got a book from 1961 that had my very first gig in it, and I listed month by month all the gigs I had. I got three composite those composition books with the black and white ones, that you have in school. And I look at it, and it's unbelievable when you look at that stuff.
Well, let's just to put it into perspective. So JJ, I know you're in excess of 9,000 performances that you've documented. Nugent, who plays like a maniac all over the place, he's only at about 7,000, including shows today.
Yeah.
So just to put it into perspective here.
Well, let's really put it. Okay, how about using this as a statistic? When a kid comes up to me now and says, "Hey, man, give me some advice," and I go, "How long you been together?" They go, 2 years. And I go, "How many shows have you played in the 2 years?" And they go, "Well, we played a lot of shows. I played 50 shows." And I go, "You played?" "You played 50 shows, like what? About 45 minutes each year. 50 shows in 2 years." He goes, "Okay." I go, "Cool. I tell you what. When you get to 500 shows, call me. I'll come and see you." And he goes, 500? I said, "Yeah, because you're gonna suck until you hit about 500 shows, and I don't have time to fucking waste while you suck. So when you hit 500, I'll come and see you." He goes, "We're never gonna hit 500." I said, "Well, there's a good fucking chance I'm never gonna come and see your band." Now, here's the deal. You look at my schedule. I'm playing 30 shows a week, 52 weeks a year. You look at that statistic. And basically, in the first 2 years of the band, we're at 4,000 performances. And that, Carmine, as you know, is how you get good as a band.
That's right.
You've got to play. Anything. Really, as anything.
You got to play, man. I mean, and that's the problem today.
Oh, yeah, nobody plays.
Nobody plays. Here's the problem, man. A kid gets on American Idol or a kid gets on The Voice and they win. And they go, and this is what they say. They go, "I want to thank my fans for sticking with me for 15 weeks. Suck my fucking dick, all right? 15 fucking weeks so you can push a little I like button on your phone, and you think that's how you get good? Are you out of your fucking mind? I mean,
take it easy with the cursing, bro.
Hey, you're not supposed to say dick.
I'm sorry. Is there a language issue on this show?
No.
Tell me now.
Yes, it must be in English.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm going out. I'm doing a motivational tour. I teach people how to relax. See, I don't wind them up. I don't want to
quit the business.
Just stay home, watch TV.
Listen, if what JJ just said isn't demotivational, I don't know what. Shut the fucking up.
I mean, really, go suck my dick. I can't. I can't put up with
500 shows, you little prick. Oh,
I got something to show you guys. You ready? So my first show I ever went to was the Weavers at Carnegie Hall in 1963. The second show I ever went to was the Animals in Central Park on August 3rd, 1966, which, by the way, is the night that Chaz Chandler went down after the show and saw Jimi Hendrix at the Cafe Wha and decided to quit the Animals and manage Jimi Hendrix. He went after the night that I saw him. I was 14.
Wow.
But when I was 15, I went to the Murray the K Easter show at the RKO Theater. And let me read you the bill. This is $3. Let me read you the bill. The Young Rascals, the Blues Magoos, Simon and Garfunkel, Phil Oakes. Check this out. The Who and the Cream are opening fucking bands.
Wow.
Okay. They opened. The Who did 2 songs. Cream did 2 songs. All right. The Young Rascals were at the bottom of the bill, except that Groovin' was #1 that week. So Murray the K asked him to headline. And I asked Gene Cornish, how much money? Oh, by the way, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels and Wilson Pickett are the headliners.
Wow.
Except that the Young Rascals closed the show. And I asked Gene Cornish if he remembered doing it, because every band had to play 7 shows a day for 9 days, 63 shows. Because Carmine, in those days it was a review, right? 45 minutes. Everybody's playing 2 songs. But the Young Rascals had the #1 song in the country. And Murray the K says to Sid Bernstein, who was managing them at the time, he said, "I need the guys to headline. I can't sell fucking tickets. Nobody knows who the Who are. Nobody knows who the Cream are. I need to sell tickets." And Sid Bernstein said, "How much can you pay the band?" And Murray says, "I got no money, but I'll buy them lunch every day." Wow. And that band played fucking 45 shows for lunch.
Yeah.
I've tried making that offer, and I haven't gotten very far on that one. I give them meatballs. They still got to.
They're meatballs. They're still
We
good.
play for meatballs.
I said,
Hey,
I said,
Joey.
I
So I
think
was gonna say,
Joey
Joey,
might
you
have
with us?
played. Joey might have played some
Hey.
of those kind of murder case shows. You know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I wanted to make a little transition here. Murray the Cake was brought up. Jimi Hendrix was brought up. I mean, these are Gene Cornish and the Young Rascals are brought up.
And Mitch Ryder with Jim McCarty, our guitar player from
I mean,
Cactus.
these are all your contemporaries.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Carmine, we're going to get into this because your history is so huge, and what the Fudge did was amazing. But how many times, Carmine, did you guys play the Fillmore?
How many times? The East or West?
Either one.
Carmine, get back to me when you work it 500 times, okay?
About three times, 3 times each.
And who was on the bill with you when you played the Fillmore?
Oh God, we played the Avalon Ballroom too. It was Ken. He was out with us, and the Grateful Dead. You know,
Right.
people like that. I don't remember exactly, you know, and when we played the Fillmore East, it was I can't even remember who opened up for us in the Fillmore East.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I saw the Grateful Dead open for Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? When the Grateful Dead is an opening band, you know what they do? They tune up and say goodnight.
Yeah.
That's 45 minutes. Right?
That's crazy.
45 minutes.
Hey,
But
Joey D. Joey D. Are you with us, Joey?
Hey,
There he is.
hello,
We're
can you
gonna
hear
try to
me?
do this with you.
Can you
I
hear
can
me
hear
now?
You fine, I think.
Yeah.
Now we hear you. Yeah.
So, Joey, we want to welcome you to the show. Thank
Oh,
you for being
hey, good.
such a classy dude. I
Thank
thought
you.
you were
You
talking.
guys
I'm
are
sorry.
talking about 5 sets a night. The lounge, we work from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. 7
That's right.
sets a night,
7.
6
Yeah.
night, and that's better than going to Berkeley, man.
I was there
So
next door at the wagon
preceding you
wheel.
guys.
I was at the wagon wheel
Really?
next door doing that, and we used to go on our break next door to the Peppermint Lounge and see you. And it was
Right.
awesome.
Thank you,
Also,
Coleman.
you had Willie, you had
And
Willie
Ricky-
playing
Ricky
drums,
Andrews.
and you had Felix playing keyboard.
on a B3, and Ricky Chin, one of my from your neighbors. But it was great, and you talked to Brass. I put that group together. They were from all 3 different groups. I had every Dino Danelli in the group.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hired
Yeah,
Ed
sorry.
Gotti because he's a younger brother, the style actor.
Davey, yeah.
And then I had Gene guitar, and I have 3 guitar players, 2 of them in a Rock Hall of Fame, and one won an Academy Award. How's that for talent?
Didn't
I
Hendrix
had
play with
Gene
you
Cornish in the Hall of Jimmy Hendrix in the Hall of Fame here and in England, and he was my guitar player and Academy Award. So I picked some pretty good guitar players.
Yeah, Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci play
too?
guitar.
Joe Pesci play with you. Yeah.
Well, let's get back. These are
Look at that.
legendary.
Look at
And he
Hendrix.
wrote that-
Yeah. That's Jimi Hendrix.
Unbelievable.
I played gigs with Jimi
1995
Hendrix
in
like,
Buffalo.
when he looked like that. Yeah.
There you go.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
That was 19.
Is that actually
David
whose
Lee
autograph
Roth.
is that?
To
Yeah,
Mark.
David Lee Roth. There you go.
Yeah, David Lee Roth.
The man could jump. He said
Heck
white,
yeah,
white
man.
boys can't jump.
So, Joey, the Peppermint
And I
Lounge
wanted to guys
is such an iconic place. We talk about places. We
And
talk
then-
about
then what?
places like CBGB's, Fillmore East, all these iconic places. And I don't know, unless you're a true student of all this stuff, if the Peppermint Lounge gets the props that it deserves, because you're talking on a nightly basis not only the performers, but people in the audience like Liberace and Judy Garland and just everybody from old school Hollywood and rock and roll.
Wow.
I mean, what was it like during those times? I mean, for us, it's already happened. It's iconic. It's legendary. It's amazing. But as it's happening, did you actually realize just how amazing it was? I mean, were you starstruck? Judy Garland walks in. Are you like, oh my goodness, Judy's here? What was that like, Joe?
How about a twist with Judy Garland and Shelley went to Shirley MacLaine and Marilyn Monroe comes in, and John Wayne, and dig this. You're dig this. One night, Miles Davis and King Curtis came in after a recording session, and they sat in with Joey D in the Starlight. Called Things Ain't What They Used to Be. I mean, it don't get better than that, man. You don't get bigger than that. Miles, I had the first rock and roll band with a #1 hit that was integrated on Billboard magazine. And that's what I'm most proud of in my whole career.
Amen.
Now they should stop all of that stuff. Let's get this country back together again.
Yeah.
Well, we're all trying to do that. Hopefully, music is the needle and thread that puts us back together.
Is that the Beatles there? Whoa.
Music, sports, man.
That's a great picture. Tell me about this picture, Joey.
The Beatles in
Wow.
Okay, they're the Beatles there. And the Beatles opened months before they came to the USA, Stockholm, Sweden. They were my opening act. And
my God.
I told them I'm so grateful. When we come to the States, we're coming to the, you know what? All 4 of them showed up, man.
That's cool.
You know, I mean, in all the shows we've done, Ron,
I got
you know, in all the shows we've done, nobody ever said the Beatles were their opening act.
I know.
Right?
I know. I mean, we had somebody say that Zeppelin was their opening act.
Yeah, Zeppelin, but
that's pretty cool.
But the Beatles.
For the fudge.
Too bad Joey can't call in without the video, so he's got a better connection because he's got some great stories and we can't hear him. I don't know if he could do that.
Jamie's book has twist in it, and mine has twist in it. Is that ironic? Peppermint Twist Chronicles is my book, and he's got a book with the twist. And
you both you guys are twisted.
Die, man. It's like
you know, JJ, we're talking, you know, right now. I mean,
too, man.
Now, you know, I could almost say now more than ever, you know, race relations and all that stuff is important. And, you know, Joey D was very proud of his integrated racial connections with his music. And I know that was very important to you. I was reading a little thing about you growing up and being strongly affected by the Kent State issues over there. And we don't get too political, all that stuff on the show. But, you know, so many of us that came around a little bit later learned about Kent State and stuff from Neil Young and you know, through rock and roll. Can you tell me at that time, because you were in high school, am I right at that time?
Yeah.
How did it, because again, no internet. I mean, all the stuff that affects people now wasn't around. So how did it get to you in high school, and how did it make you feel so strongly about it?
Well, I came from my family was very politically active. They were left wing. My mother worked for many politicians on the Democratic side. So they were very strong pro-civil rights, anti-war. But let me just say this. Back in the 60s, and Carmine knows this, everybody was anti-war in the 60s. Back in the 60s, you could stand on stage at Woodstock. You got 400,000 people, and you could all say Nixon sucks, and everybody's going to go, Nixon sucks. And you go, we hate the war. And everyone's going to go, we hate the war. It was a very different time. It was the youth versus the old people. It was a very clear line. Don't trust anybody over 30. That's what the big phrase was. Bob Dylan, you know, all these groups. It wasn't like it was a divide. You didn't have Neil Young make a comment until he made the comment that sparked Sweet Home Alabama. You know, don't need a Southern man to push us around anymore. That was the first time ever that I saw a break in any kind of ranks, which is Southern versus Northern, or somehow making some sort of a social statement. Back in those days, there wasn't a conscious decision to have a social statement because everybody felt the same way. These days, everything becomes an argument. These days, everything becomes an agenda. These days, half my fans like this guy, half my fans like that guy. I will tell you this. We're Not Going to Take It is the world's #1 protest song. Okay, that is just hands down the world's #1. It is the most licensed heavy metal song in the history of the music business. And it is the most divisive song because it is used by everybody on both sides of the agenda. Just last week, I got 2 videos, one from the president of Honduras and one from the president of Spain, both using We're Not Going to Take It as their theme songs. And I'm not going to get into with you the legality of the use, and I'm not going to get to the morality of the use. I'm just talking about it's used. That's my point. 3 years ago, the guy running for the Prime Minister of Australia decided he wanted to use We're Not Going to Take It. And he decided to make a deal with the publishing company. And he said, I want to rewrite the lyrics to We're Not Going to Cop It, which is, I don't know, their Australian version of Take It.
Right.
The publishing company said to him, that'll be $150,000 if you rewrite the lyrics. The guy says, forget it. I don't want to do it. He does it anyway.
Oops.
He spends a fortune on the commercials. And here's the problem. Here's exactly the problem. It hits the airwaves in Australia. He spends a shitload of money on it. Half the people in Australia hate this guy. About 80% people hate this guy. Who gets the emails? We get the emails. Fuck you. You suck. You'll sell out to anybody. Like, we don't own the song, dude. We have nothing to do with this, okay? We got all the flack for this. I contacted the publishing company. I said, do you know this guy has totally rewritten We're Not Going to Take It? They said no. They went after him. They sued him. They won. Universal won. The guy was fined $1.5 million.
Nice.
So what happens on the headlines? Twisted Sister wins $1.5 million because people don't understand this.
Who wrote the song?
Well, D wrote it, but he doesn't own it. It's owned by Universal. He sold it to Universal Music. Look, here's the thing that most people don't understand. If I can just give you a quick amount of business lesson in the music industry. When you hear a song being played at a stadium, I don't care what song it is. I don't care if it's Neil Diamond or Twisted Sister. If you hear our song at a baseball stadium, you think we're getting paid. So when my friend hears We're Not Going to Take It at a hockey game or a football game, I get a text. Yo, dude, watching the Patriot game. We're not going to take it. Ka-ching. I write back, yo, dude, we get paid $0 because the artist gets paid $0. Just the publisher gets paid. We don't get paid. Not only do we not get paid, they don't even ask you for permission. You know what I'm talking about, Carmine. But the assumption is that you have to be in on it. Now, it's one thing to do it with a baseball game. It's another thing to have a politician play it. When a politician uses it, they immediately think you support the politician. That's immediately what happens. So whether you like it or you don't like it, you wind up getting the shit and you hear the shit about it. So that's what that does. So to answer, that's a long answer, Ron, to your question. Sure. Twisted Sister we've always taken this position that we personally, as a band, do not take a political side. You know, we a long time ago decided that we're an entertainment package. You come to see us to get away from the bullshit that you put up with during the day. So we're going to just entertain you. I personally don't have a problem with anyone's personal agendas. I just don't think that an artist's job is to do that. But if you do it, understand you're going to have to face the consequences of the fallout. I come from the 60s. Carmine comes from the 60s. That was the generation of protest. That was the generation of civil rights. That's where we all came from. That was the time and the place for that to happen. So, Ron, it wasn't unusual to be a New York kid, especially in Manhattan, and be involved in anti-war and be involved in the civil rights movement, not under any circumstance. And by the way, as I say in my book, my girlfriend was the granddaughter of Robert E. Lee.
Wow.
Okay? Back in those days. And the reason why she dated me was because she was from Atlanta, Georgia. She was a Southern belle. And the way she could get back with her mother, to make her mother pissed off, is to date a Jew drug dealer from Manhattan. I ticked all the boxes. Her mother goes, he's a hippie, he's a drug dealer, he's Jewish. Ah! You know,
that's one way.
So I represented everything that was evil.
Taboo to her, to the Southern belles.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Joey, I mean, you're sitting back listening to all this stuff, and obviously, you know, you lived through it a little bit too. But, you know, back in those days of when rock and roll was starting, just, you know, starting to gain momentum. I mean, the British invasion, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about when you guys were there, when you guys were the first Jersey Boys, when you guys were doing what you were doing and affecting rock and roll history from the beginning. Now, those days, Joey, it's so hard for me. So I'm 59. I'm a student of the 70s, like the late 70s, 78, 79. Those are my years, you know. It's hard for me to grasp just all this talent that was surrounding you in those formative years of rock and roll. Now, when you were part of this whole thing, is this something that you really felt that was happening? Did you have, is this, because you look at all the people that you played with, it almost looks like you had like a rotating roster and not one band. It wound up being that way, but this rotating roster, how did you decide who was playing when?
Well, that's a hell of a question.
Yeah.
Stands in most cases. But we had musicians in New York. They came from all over the world. If you wanted to make it, you had to make it in the Apple. So Hicks came from Washington. This one came from Connecticut. This one came from Louisiana. The Neville brothers. I had Charles on saxophone in my band. I put the earlier, but it could have been better. During my off day, I would go down to the Cafe Wah and see Bob. I mean, this was Woodstock and before you guys, like a decade before. It was a lot different. We liked dress, and that was a deal. The Isley brothers, when we did the Christmas show, everybody would dress to outdress the next dude. That's why I'm wearing what I'm wearing now. Okay? Because I outdressed all you dudes now, right?
Well, I got to tell you, you know.
Hold on, I'm gonna go get my jacket. Hold on.
Well, I got to tell you that, you know, I was, you know, when I earlier in my career, what I was doing, you know, I was lucky enough.
Now, how do I get Jimi Hendrix? You know, how do I get Jimi Hendrix in the band? In 1965, the band was morphing. Things happen. So I had my drummer, Jimmy Mays, go to New York City, go find me a guitar player. He just got off the road with Little Richard and Ivy Brothers. I said, he must be great. He said, yeah, but they don't like him because he's taking up the show. I said, well, that doesn't bother me. I love that. It'll make my show look better. So I had him come to my house in Lodi, New Jersey, and audition for me. He with a raggedy fire, a guitar with no. He had the bandana on his head, and he came in and he said, Mr. D, what do you want me to play? I said, my name's Joey. Secondly, I want you to put you lying. So he started playing the guitar upside down. I didn't believe what so he started playing Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, and I'm an R&B guy from my heart, gospel music and R&B, and that's how I got started. all the doo-wop groups. So Henry played maybe 30 seconds or 90 seconds of Curtis Mayfield. And I said, you got the gig, man. And that's how I got Jimi Hendrix in the band, 1965 for the whole year. It's discovered in my night, Joey D. Starlighter by Chas Chandler, who was Animals, and he became Jimmy's manager. He hired him, took him to England, and the rest is history, man.
No, it's rock. It's definitely rock and roll.
Great story.
Ron,
I saw him before that. I saw him before that. We played gigs at the Lighthouse uptown. It was like a really bad area, and we would do, you know, back in the day, you had 30 minutes you played, then the other band played for 30 minutes, and then they played some records. And we used to hang out when they played the records and smoke some pot. And Jimmy would always talk about trying to make it, trying to make it in a band that made
legendary.
It's unbelievable,
I could tell you this. The first 2 weeks, Twisted Sister played, the very first two shows, the first weeks, we opened for Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Wow.
And that was the first week we ever played. We opened for Little Anthony, and then we opened for the Coasters, Cornell, Gunther, and the Coasters the second week.
Now, were you wearing the makeup and stuff?
Yeah, we were wearing dresses and everything.
Oh, my God.
We were total transvestite, dude. And by the way, thank you. Yeah, doesn't he look like Sarah Jessica Parker dipped in a vat of acid? Doesn't he? So when Twisted Sister became a charter member of the Long Island Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Little Anthony was also inducted that year. And I walked up to Little Anthony and I said to him, dude, I bet you don't even know that the first show Twisted ever played, which was on March 9th, 1973, we opened up for you. And he said, honestly, I don't remember. I said, no, but I'll bet you remember the club. And Carmine, you know what I'm about to say? A fucked up club stays in your mind for your entire life. Like a fucked up club experience, a fucked up club owner, a crazy club manager stays in your mind. Do you guys remember the Satellite Lounge in Wrightstown, New Jersey? That was a bowling alley. It was owned by this guy.
No.
Okay, so it was owned by this guy named Carlo, who carried a gun, who always threatened all the bands to turn down. If you didn't turn down, he threatened to kill you.
Well, that wouldn't be a place for me to play.
I said, so what happened was I said to Little Anthony, I'll bet you don't remember. I bet you remember the club, the Satellite Lounge. And he goes, that motherfucker, Carlo. He goes, that dude was crazy. Now check this out. If you ever get Foghat on your show, Foghat on,
many times,
he shot Foghat's amplifiers up.
Oh, no kidding.
Really? Wow.
Write this down. We'll have Roger on the show again.
So Foghat to turn down. Roger Earl said no. He pulled out his 38 and he blew their Marshalls up.
Man.
So when people talk to me about the clubs and the club owners and the bullshit, listen, one time we were playing in Jersey City. Now, you know how club owners always tell you you're too fucking loud, turn down. So we played this one room, and the club owner walks up to my singer, and I think they wanted to take a guy out back and beat the crap out of him. And he says, hey, listen, for the next 20 minutes, play as loud as you fuck. Just make as much noise as you possibly can. We said, why? He goes, no, turn it up. Just really fucking play loud, just play it for the next 20 minutes. You can play as loud as you want. Because they were freaking, I don't know,
beating the hell out.
Talk about Philly and my old manager, Vanilla Fudge, with the Speaks. He had a partner named Chubby. Remember Chubby?
100%.
Chubby used to go on the road with us. And back when we first started, making money, we played places, and Chubby was the one, like the tour manager, you go get the money. Right? So one time this club owner says, well, I don't have the money. We already played. He said, what do you mean you don't have the money? He says, you got to have the money. You just had a full house here. Take me to the office and I'll pay. And the guy said no. So Chubby used to carry a .22 pistol in his sock. So he took the .22 pistol out of his sock. He put it to the guy's head and said, now take me to the office and pay the band the money. So the guy went to the office, opened the safe. He had shitload of money, paid us the money. Chubby said, "Thank you very much." Put the gun back in the sock. And we used to fly like that back in the day, you know, before the security.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Phil Basile,
Talking about money, you guys
I'm sorry.
talking about money and playing songs and all of that. You got JJ. Think it is. I had Morris Levy as my record owner for Roulette, who was with the Genovese family.
Yeah.
You know how many his Peppermint Twist sold? Millions and millions. It was the number 2 record of 1962. Got 0 in royalties. Who you going to argue with? You're talking about playing the song, talking about royalties. We got nothing. Tommy James and I got 0.
Yep. I know Tommy. I read Tommy's book. Read Tommy's book. Amazing.
There you go.
Yeah, the family.
He owned the Pepper Lounge, he owned Land, and he owned Roulette Records. You can argue with the boys in Jersey, but we had the random kind of guys. I grew them, and I knew some people you don't say no to, and other people you be very nice to all the time. And be careful.
Yeah.
And because I stepped on a few toes along the way, and I got sat down a couple of times. And it's in my book, man.
It's a great book, Joey.
Careful, but talking about your song played and get royalties, that sucks. But not getting paid royalties even sucked worse.
You know, you're talking about royalties.
Kid, I want to say something. And
I want
he had
to
a gruffy. You
to
want to talk
Carmine.
about a guy? This was one of the toughest I ever met, man. He said, kid, I record money, you get the performance money. That works. And who are you going to argue with? Genovese? I don't.
Yes, I want to tell you a couple of Speaks. I want to so Speaks was owned by Phil Basile.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of really quick Speaks stories. So Twisted Sister used to play and pack Speaks, 2,000 people every time we played, night after night after night. There was a club in Queens, and the guy didn't want Twisted to play because he didn't like the way our crowd dressed with T-shirts and jeans and sneakers and ripped jeans. And he didn't want us to play. And Kevin Brenner, our agent, said, "How do you say no to Twisted Sister? They pack your room. They pack Speaks." He goes, I don't like the way their fans dress. So he comes down one night to Speaks, and we're on stage. And you remember that commercial for Speaks? Da 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 da. Speaks. Da 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 da.
That's East Coast.
Da 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 da. The best. So we used to goof on that. We used to go da 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 da. Speaks. The most potholes in the parking lot. But da da da. Speaks. Rat meat in the hamburgers. We'd fuck around. The guy walks in the club, sees Phil Basile, and Phil Basile sees the guy, and Phil says, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I own this club in Queens Village, and I'm thinking, you know, I don't want these kinds of people in my room. And on top of that, listen to the song that band's playing. They're making fun of your room." And Phil goes, "Are you an idiot? I got 2,000 fucking paying customers in my bar." He goes, "What the fuck? Who cares?" Right? That was one. Another time, a rival club owner decided to destroy our truck while we were playing at Speaks and lit our truck on fire on a Saturday night. And I'm on stage singing Sweet Jane at Speaks, and someone yells out, "Your truck is on fire." And we opened up the back door, and our truck was in 50-foot flames. And it completely destroyed the club. And that was a rival club owner who destroyed our truck because we wouldn't play his room anymore. So, you know, we put up with a bunch of shit, which never winds up on The Voice and never winds up on American Idol, because those motherfuckers don't know what it's like to go through the shit that we went through.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. You know, you talk about Little Anthony and the Imperials, and you talk about the songs back then, and Joey, your connection to, you know, right now, you know, the bands that are out there writing their own songs, they're working one-on-one with songwriters. But you had guys like, you know, again, you're bringing up Little Anthony, going out of my head, guys like Teddy Randazzo, who did all those songs, that wrote all those classic songs. It's a different environment back then because you were literally surrounded by songwriters. You know, how did that dynamic happen between you guys? How did you decide to pick one song over another and really help propel Teddy Randazzo's career to the next level?
Who's that for?
That's for Joe.
I wrote the Peppermint Twist with Henry Glover. Chubby Checker and Joey D did not do the twist. Hank Ballard and the Midnighters created the twist song and dance. Let's give credit where credit is due. He never got the credit for it, man. And Chubby Checker had the only time I was #1 twice in Billboard, which was a clone of Hank Ballard's version of the twist. Because the Peppermint Lounge becoming so famous, came again and became #1 again. It's incredible how all occurred. But a song I did, What Kind of Love Is This, was written for me by Johnny Nash for a movie.
Johnny Nash, right?
Tickets to Paris. Johnny Nash.
He did. I could see.
He didn't have anybody sing it. He could have sung it himself because he had a beautiful voice. But he gave me that song to sing in the movie. It became a big hit for me. So, and then Shout, the Isley Brothers, the best version ever. Mine went to #6. I'm saying mine sucks compared to the Isley Brothers version, and yet the Isley Brothers never made it top 10. And I said, you want to hear the real Shout? They wrote it. They got it from an old gospel tune. And that's the definitive version. That's the version that should have been #1.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how this came about. I wrote it, but a lot of times I don't know about and Carmine and Vinny. You guys wrote your songs, but it seemed later on, my day, there were songwriters, Carole King and all of these people. Sedaka would write for other people. But you guys, when Billy Joel, Neil Diamond wrote all your own hits, which was great because now you got it all. You had it covered. I never had that possibility. Neither did I have the possibility of he said, "I'll give a kid."
That's what separates the different generations of.
That's how it was back then, man.
To our generation.
But
Joey, we're gonna, you know, Joe, I think we're gonna do is we have a commercial to talk about what we got coming up next week. We do this. God love you, Joe.
I'm sorry.
No. What we're gonna do is we got a commercial. We're gonna talk about what we got on Hangin' and Bangin' next week. We'll go to commercial, and then we are definitely gonna invite you back to the show. You got so many stories, so much history, so much iconic experience that we want to talk about. And technology is not our friend tonight for sure.
Yeah.
And it just underscores the way you are as far as, you know, believing in the way things used to be rather than things are now. So let's go to commercial, Ben, and then we're going to give you a call back, Joey, okay?
To another show.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see what we got coming next week, Ben.
You should.
Yeah, let's do
with
that.
A better connection.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great stories, and
Conrad Peace here for Hangin' and Bangin'. December 16th, we have a good friend of mine, Pat Travis. He's coming back for an appearance on the Hangin' and Bangin' show. Along with, from Anthrax, we have Frank Bello, so that's going to be a cool one. Really good show. So December 16th, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock on the West Coast. And you can see it on Artists on Lockdown or Carmine Peace Facebook official or Vinny Appice. And or is it a piece? No, it's Appice. So come check it out. It's going to be a really cool show. Okay, December 16th, Frank Bello and Pat Travis. Ciao.
That's a great band. You really sort of spoke that hat a lot there, Art. You be part of your thing now?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in my face. What was that stuff?
Yeah, what was that? Was that an effect or was that just a bad connection?
I think it was an effect.
We just call it an effect. We've had enough technology issues.
It was an effect. Yeah.
Let's say we did that on purpose and just leave it alone.
Ron,
Yeah, man.
Just to your point about the racial situation, just to add a little bit more to it. Back in the late 50s, early 60s, most of the doo-wop bands were integrated. Most of them were black and Italian guys, and there wasn't a racial component that was negative. But until 1964, 90% of all black artists in America could not eat in the restaurants that they sang in down south.
Right.
And most people don't understand how fucked up that was. The greatest artists are James Brown, Muddy Waters, the entire litany of Buddy Guy, B.B. King.
Let me stop you there for a minute. I live in Florida now, right? And I went to an area of Florida, and an old guy said to me, he said, "This area, see that there used to be the bathroom for the blacks, and that's the bathroom for the whites." I said, "Whoa!" I said, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's what it was like up until like the 50s."
Yeah, so you don't have that today, and most people can't even imagine
grasp it.
How that world. If you saw the Green Book, for better or worse, the Green Book, the movie, tells the story where black artists were basically could not eat in the restaurants they played in. I mean, it's almost unfathomable to think that's how it was. And by the way, another thing about the 60s is you had the Chambers Brothers, you had Jimi Hendrix, you had some amazing artists, and I think people were colorblind back then. They just wanted great music. That's really what they wanted. And by the way, Carmine, have you watched, and Vinny, have you guys watched the Tammy Show recently? You know, that show, do you know what the Tammy Show is?
No.
Do you know what it is? Okay. So let me tell you this. In 1964, in Santa Monica, the Santa Monica Civic Center, on an afternoon in December, the following acts were on one TV show. You ready? Chuck Berry, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, Leslie Gore, Jan and Dean, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, the Rolling Stones, and James Brown all performed on the same stage in one afternoon in December 1964, and it was filmed for a theatrical release the following year. And it was called The Tammy Show, which stood for Teenage Music International, which is the stupidest name ever.
Yeah, I remember that now.
You read the Rolling Stones book, Keith Richards' book, and you read this quote: "What's the biggest mistake the Rolling Stones ever made?" Answer: following James Brown on The Tammy Show. Question to Mick Jagger: what's the biggest mistake the Rolling Stones ever made? Answer: following James Brown on The Tammy Show. You go online right now on YouTube, you put in James Brown, The Tammy Show. You put in two songs, you put in Please, Please, Please and Night Train, and you will see possibly the greatest single performance of a human being in the history of the music business. It was so good that Jagger freaked out and didn't want to go on stage afterwards.
I don't blame him.
No, there's no comparison.
I saw him live at the Apollo in those days. Right?
No shit, did you?
Yes, but I went up there with like 10 people just to be safe. You know
Carmine? Do you remember?
Do you remember? Unbelievable! It was unbelievable.
I got to tell you, I was
so much energy and so much power in his voice, and so theatrical when he did Please, Please, and dropped to his knees.
Drops to his knees.
The place went crazy.
Yeah, you got to watch.
Put the cape on him. You know.
He just died last week.
I wanted to do that in my solo. I used to wear a cape with Rod Stewart and was to walk out on the stage.
The guy that did the cape thing.
Listen, imagine doing a solo. You're doing a solo, and then you go, and then your rotor comes out and puts a cape on you.
Yeah, the guy who did the cape thing for James Brown, he died.
You got to do that in Drum Wars.
I'll put the cape on you.
Okay.
I'll do it. I'll be cape boy.
Let's do that. I still have the cape.
What is that?
See what I'm holding?
Wow.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin's first show at the Fillmore.
Right. We played
Iron
a show with
Butterfly,
James Brown.
Opening for Iron Butterfly. But this is the best one. Look who is opening for Led Zeppelin.
Woody Herman.
Woody
Herman. So, Carmine, did you play with did you play with Miles Davis? Did you play with jazz artists?
No, but look at this. Can you see that?
No. Oh, there you go.
And where was that?
Led
Zeppel.
Lynn. So I want to know who Lynn is. Right? That's Vanilla Fudge and Led Zeppelin at the second show they did with us in 1968 in Seattle, the Seattle Center Arena.
What was
Nobody
the date?
knew them. Their album
was
wasn't coming out. The date on that was December 27th, 1968. Their album wasn't even out yet.
Right.
Wait, can you see this?
Ah.
James
So
Brown
I
and
did a
you.
show.
Hey.
I did 2 shows with James Brown. Let's see here. I did 2 shows with James Brown. This one here was the first one. And I did the show in a racetrack right in the middle, like in the infield. And I had, we literally had 40,000 people.
What happened to Vinny?
He's, he hates when I upstage him with the pictures. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And so I do this thing. He comes out and he looks around. And first of all, he had 2 drummers, which happens. But he also had 2 bass. He also had 2 bass players. He had a 12-piece horn section. I know it was weird. And the guy with the cape was there. And this is in '92, I think. Matter of fact, the guy that did the cape all the time, he just passed away. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
And the show that he did was just as powerful then as it was back in the late 50s and early 60s. And he was walking with me. That moment right there, as we were walking around, he couldn't fathom. He couldn't wrap his arm or embrace the whole thing about the concert in the middle of a racetrack. There's a horse racing going on. And he's like, "You did this?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Horse racing, women, liquor, James Brown, you a genius." And we had a good time, man, because this guy.
That sounds just like him, man.
Well, I've been working on
it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
2.5 hours, didn't stop. And this is 1992 now. This ain't no 68. 1992, he didn't stop. And that girl that was with him, let me see. This was his wife. This is the one that, if you look at that famous picture, the famous picture of him like arrested.
Yeah.
So
she's the one who called the police on him.
No.
Yeah, that was the time when he beat her up.
My girlfriend had James Brown on her show, the Radio Chick show in New York, and she said he was such a gentleman, such a nice guy, that he wanted to come back. He said, "I want to come back on the show. I love you. I love him." And then he passed away before he can do that.
Carmine, did you ever play Unganos in New York City?
Yes.
And did you play Steve Paul's Scene?
Yes, we used to jam there all the time.
Well, everyone used to jam at Steve Paul's Scene.
Yeah. We used to go to the record plant with Hendrix. Hendrix was in the record plant. We were in the
McCoys.
Yeah, and Rick Derringer, and we'd all go down the scene, and we'd all go jam. So
Ron, these were 2 restaurants in New York: Steve Paul's Scene and Unganos. Steve Paul's was on 50th and 8th Avenue, and Unganos was on 70th Street off Broadway. There were these little clubs, and on any given night in 68, 69, 70, you would see Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Rod Stewart, Eric Clapton, Blind Faith. All these musicians would hang out there during the week in between their concerts, and they would just jam. I walked in one night to a jam session that had Dr. John, Stevie Winwood, Jim Keltner, Rick Gretsch, Delaney Bonnie, and Eric Clapton for 3 hours, just jamming on stage. So you remember those days?
Oh yeah. We were recording around the corner at the record plant in '68, and Jimmy was recording at night after we would go for like 12 to 6 or 7. Then Jimmy would come in, and he'd go till about midnight, and then we'd all go to the scene and jam and screw around.
And that's how it was even LA, with the Whiskey and the Doors and that whole Laurel Canyon crowd that was just walking around.
They didn't jam though. They were all about writing songs. They were about writing songs. This was like going in and like just jamming a blues song and jam like Hendrix jam. I jammed with Hendrix many times at the scene. Different people jam with different people. It was amazing. And, Unganos was the first place that we played You Keep Me Hanging On, that the audience stopped dancing or trying to dance and came up and watched us play the song. Another experience I had was a funny one at Ungano's. And we live, Leslie has an apartment on the next block. Now that place is a restaurant, And but I went and saw Tony Williams' Lifetime with Jack Bruce, Tony Williams, John McLaughlin. I forgot who the keyboard player was. And Keith Moon came in, and he went near the front of the stage, pulled his pants down, and then walked right in front of the whole stage, because it was only like that high, the stage,
Yeah,
it sounds like Keith Moon.
This place was I saw Free one night. There was no stage. They were on the floor. I had Paul Kossoff standing here, and I had Paul Rogers standing here. They were on the floor. I also saw Leslie West. I saw Mountain the night before they went to Woodstock, because he had announced on stage, he goes, "I'd like to play some more, but I'm playing a gig tomorrow at Woodstock." And that was Mountain's third show ever. That night that I saw them at Ungano's.
I was with Leslie's wife the last few days over in there was a convention for Dean Guitars. He played Dean Guitars, and we talked about all that stuff. Vanilla Fudge was asked to do that show at Woodstock, but we had done so many festivals. There was such a pain in the ass to get in and out of, that we passed on it. Who knew?
Carmine, what was your first show as the Vanilla Fudge? Do you remember where it was?
The first show at the Action House.
It was the Action House, which was Speaks.
Yeah.
Okay. So one day, Larry Tortorisi, who was managing for Phil, Larry takes me into the back room, and he says to me, every band that played the Fillmore played the Action House. And he pulled out a stack of pay slips. And you saw Led Zeppelin, you saw Jimi Hendrix, you saw Fleetwood Mac, and it was $400, $600, $700, $600.
Hey, dude, Led Zeppelin opened up for Vanilla Fudge on December 26, 1968. We didn't need them on there. The gig was sold out. Vanilla Fudge and Spirit, 7,000 people. Barry Fay, who the promoter in Denver, said, I don't need them. Our agent said, I'll tell you what, it's $1,500 for Led Zeppelin. You pay half, and Vanilla Fudge will pay half. We didn't have a clue. We didn't even know any of that. I found that out in 2004.
Really?
So we paid half of Led Zeppelin's fee for the very first gig they ever played in America.
Wow. Did you remember a guitar player, a Carmine, named Ricky Ramirez?
Yes, Ricky was in Cactus for a minute. Played with Mark Stein and Boomerang. He was 17 years old.
And Boomerang. So Ricky Ramirez used to be a druggie with me back in the park days, back in 68, 69. So I knew Ricky and his brother.
Jay, I can't get over how, think about it. You've referenced yourself as a druggie a couple of times on the show, so you obviously partook a little bit. So you got that, but it's like the person who's smoking and they pass away at 96, and you're trying to convince kids don't smoke. This guy, motivational speaker, author. He's on Inc. magazine's blog or their show. Really a tremendous intellectual individual, and it's almost a testimonial to the drugs that you took, apparently.
I want to be very careful when I say what I'm about to say. Okay, I lived through a time. Carmine's 5 years older than me, but the 60s were a especially crazy time. And from 1967 to 1972, I did everything you could ever imagine you could possibly do. I was a Manhattan guy. I wasn't a Long Island guy. So I got to go to the Fillmore every weekend. I was dealing drugs like crazy. I was selling weed. I told people weed was going to be the coming thing. Everybody's selling weed now, but back in those days, that's how I could afford to buy my guitars and amplifiers. And I had an amazingly crazy time. Anti-war, civil rights, rock and roll, politics, drugs, the Fillmore, every band you could possibly want to be with, plus play guitar with as many groups as possible. But the whole scene fell apart. In 1972, heroin came in and destroyed everything. And I had a choice to make. And that was, I'm either going to die in a drug deal. I'm going to get murdered, be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I OD'd everything, or I'm going to stop. And I picked a day. It's in my book, Easter Sunday, 1972.
Easter.
And that was the last day. And I said, tomorrow I'm going to wake up. I said, I took every drug I had in a box. I said, if I wake up from this tomorrow, that'll be the end of it. And that was the end of it. And then I said to my mother, here's the bad news and the good news. The good news is I am no longer doing drugs and no longer dealing drugs. The bad news is I'm going to join a transvestite rock band.
And the rest, as they say,
and the rest is history. Yeah.
And with that,
talk
you got
about
to say
history.
good night. On that one, you got to say good night.
No, that's where I'm going. It's tremendous talking to JJ. You got to join us because we didn't even touch really on Twisted history, and I really want to talk about your book.
Anytime you guys want. Anytime we want. Listen, Carmine, I love that time we went out to lunch together. It was great.
It was great.
We have a history that is more common than we even really know, and we could spend a lot of time talking about it because the music is what binds us. The location's what binds us.
That's what I do for speaking gigs. I'm doing a speaking gig March 6th in New York. It's called New York Story. I just saw an ad for it anyway. So what I do is just talk about rock history.
So I'm the voice. I had prostate cancer 3 years ago. And I am the voice of Zero Prostate Cancer this year. So I do a lot of social media on prostate cancer awareness because it's important to bring that up too. And so that's the bottom line from there. But I'd like to thank people for listening to my podcast, The JJ French Connection. My book is out. It's available on Amazon. It's called Twisted Business. And I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Thank you, man.
It's great talking to you, Jay. We got to bring you back. JJ French from Twisted Sister, Magazine, and so many other things. Make sure you do check out everything he's involved with. And make sure you check us out once again every Thursday night right here, same bat time, same bat channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. on the West Coast. Artists on Lockdown, Hanging and Bangin. Want to thank everybody who joins us all over the world. Our incredible production team that put this whole thing together for us. Carmine, Vinny, myself, we just kind of walk in on a Thursday, make it happen, and walk away. These guys are working the rest of the week. So you guys behind the scenes on our behalf, thank you so much for making us look good. We hope you have a great week, of rocking and rolling. And until next Thursday, we will be hanging and banging. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.